Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cryptic Heathens News Show. I'm here with your lovable but beefy co-host, Kmart Caesar.
Yeah, I lift.
Wise with words as always. I'm also here with your co-host who is... she's only here because we need diversity, let's be honest. Nasty Woman.
Alright, I'll pretend I'm not offended. Not only that you insulted me, but also that you introduced me last.
Wrong, once again, cuck, because I haven't introduced myself. I am your host with probably not the most deplorable. What we are doing today is we are going to be recapping the week's previous news, and that will be led off by our diverse and feminist co-host, Nasty Woman.
Because I'm obviously the most politically versed person here.
Wrong.
All right, our first news story this week goes back to North Carolina with the very controversial HB2 bill, or as it's been called, the bathroom bill. Basically, the past year, NCAA has been withdrawing games and championships from North Carolina, basically saying, listen, if you're not going to get with the program, then we're not going to be a part of your state. So they basically told North Carolina that you have until this deadline to fix this, or we're just not coming here for another year. So the North Carolina governor was like, oh man, I'm feeling the heat. I got to fix this. So he couldn't actually achieve a full repeal. So he ended up with kind of a semi-repeal that, well, let's just say a lot of people are angry about it. Liberals say it's not enough. Conservatives say that it's too much. And really nobody's happy with this compromise. It's called HB 142. And let me explain what's going on. Personally, I think that it's better than what we had before. For example, in many public buildings, trans people can now use the restroom of the sex that they identify with. But only state legislators can actually make laws or judgments upon HB 142 at this point. So there's no local administration going into this or anything. It's all state legislated. And also, if discrimination does occur within a local community, local governments can't actually do anything to protect the people there. It's basically, we're not going to do anything to stop the discrimination, but we're also not going to promote it either. So no one's really winning here. And a lot of the opposition is actually arguing that if anything, it's just promoting more discrimination because it's not protecting those people that are being discriminated against. On top of which, they can't actually pass anything new within the law until 2020. So we're just stuck with this for the next 3 years. That's what's going on in North Carolina right now.
To be honest, here's the problem I have. I want it to be I'm all for limited government and everything, but I think with this issue, it needs to be classified on at least some level. Should it be identity, what you identify as, or should it be genetics? Like, should it be like what you genetically have? Like if you have a schlong, you should be going to the men's bathroom.
Christ.
If you have a vagina, you should be going to the women's restroom. I don't know. That's how I feel. I just want to know what you guys think. Do you think it should be identity? Do you think it should be what you have? Like if you get the operation, then you can go to that bathroom that you identify as. What do you think, Mr. Caesar?
You know, I think it's just kind of dumb, honestly, that a full-grown man with like a beard and everything can just walk into a women's restroom.
Okay.
Okay. Did I fucking interrupt you? Shut up, you bitch. Okay. Okay, so, you know, because people say gender is psychological, not physical, which, I'm sorry, have you looked between your goddamn legs? No, now, I don't think there's anything threatening about it. It's just off-putting. Like, I definitely can't speak for women, but I feel like seeing a full-grown beefcake of a man like myself walk into a women's restroom would be a bit off-putting, you know? If I saw, like, a full-grown woman just waltz into the men's room and pop a squat at a urinal, I'd be surprised for sure. But I think the big thing that a lot of people forget is we're so worried about protecting the rights of these people that their rights trump everyone else's. And I'm all about equal protection under the law. That's the thing. So while we strive to protect this vast minority, we often neglect the majority of people. And I'm not saying all people have this ideology, but there are a lot of people who feel like their rights are being trumped and violated simply because people are allowed to walk into somewhere, like, as much as I hate the term, somewhere that should be a safe space for them. The bathrooms, the locker rooms, things like that. You don't want someone of the opposite sex necessarily coming in there. That's a lot of people just see it as something that shouldn't happen. And so I think North Carolina is taking steps in the right direction to appease, that minority, and also trying to appease the majority. But I mean, it's a very delicate balance. Like, whenever it comes to anything like this, you're kind of skating on thin ice.
Yeah, you're never gonna please anyone when you especially try and sit on the fence like this. But what I think is, honestly, they should go genetics. Like, if you have the operation and you change sexes, then you're allowed to go to that bathroom, because no one's gonna shill out however many dollars just to go in there and be like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and rape some of you. Nothing like that's gonna happen.
If I may, first of all, I think you're completely misunderstanding the concept of genetics in the first place. Genetics doesn't necessarily, well, yes, it does have an impact on whether or not you have a penis or a vagina. It actually does make up your psychological space, and it plays a very big part in these people's identification process. And going back to what you were talking about, Caesar, as a woman, I can speak for women, and I find that a lot of the opposition against the transgender community and against these bathrooms are actually, as much as you two are going to hate me for saying this, are coming from a more heteronormative male group.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that sentiment. I was just saying, I feel like it's more threatening for a woman to have her space violated by a man, and I can't speak for that. But
if I may, as a female that has actually shared bathrooms and locker rooms with transgender people in the past, I can honestly say that I've never felt uncomfortable with it, and I can honestly say that it makes me feel really good to see that we've had this progress, that we've gotten to the point where we can accept people for, their headspace and how it is that they're feeling and how it is that they wish to portray themselves, and that they're capable of expressing themselves. And to me, having them in that bathroom that used to be just for my sex, but is now for my gender, a more encompassing term, is honestly, it's nice. To me, it's just a real great sign of progression, of social progression, and of cultural change, which is something that I am all for, obviously. And so, speaking for women and for the people that you guys are so apparently afraid of, for.
I don't think any of us are afraid.
Yeah, I never said I was afraid for you. I just said I couldn't
afraid.
Speak for you.
Let me just say,
I have one problem. I'll let you finish, and then I'll bring that question up to you.
Okay. Continue. That's basically it. As someone that actually has shared a bathroom with him, I think it's fine. And on top of that, it's not like beefy men are walking into women's restrooms with wigs on, like, hello, I am a woman. Also, I am here to peep on you. First of all, in a bathroom,
bitch, you want pics?
In a women's bathroom, literally, they're like stalls. Like, it's complete and utter privacy. And on top of which, I'm fairly certain if someone walked into a women's bathroom right like that, we would all be suspicious, and we wouldn't just stand there and take it. Especially if you're in a public space, like, that's kind of a bold move. So I would say the fears are, I'm not to say that they're unfounded, but just to say that if they do actually manifest themselves, it's probably a very rare occurrence, like, if it happens at all.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. Now, what the problem that I have, and I'm not a conservative, but I know conservatives also have this problem. What is, how do you define it? Is it identity? or is it if you have that actual operation? Like if I say I'm a female, do I get to walk in there with no prior operation, nothing like that? If I identify as a female on that day, do I get to walk in there? Do you
Okay,
believe...
well, you don't identify as a female on the day. Your identity as a person isn't something that's just going to be like constantly fluctuating, like, oh, I think I'm a
What about
today.
gender fluid?
Yeah, what
I
about
would like-
genderqueer people?
Wait, gender fluid, gender queer. What?
Typically I think you're talking more about binary. They're
No,
typically, they don't-
not
Not
talking
binary,
about.
gender fluid. Like people that they're literally their gender changes on like a
Alright.
day-to-day, week-to-week
Well,
basis.
Okay, I guess that's a more rare occurrence. But again, it's more, those people are going to be more androgynous than anything. They're not going to be like extremely masculine or extremely feminine. So again, it's probably going to be harder to tell the difference in the first place. But on top of that, again, their headspace and their identity does matter. And whether or not you've had that procedure, for a lot of people, getting those hormones does, it does a lot to the body. And on top of which, having that procedure, it costs money. It's expensive. It's not cheap. And going through the process is not an easy or a fun one. I would say starting the process, obviously, like that's a very brave thing to do. But if you are in the headspace and you have that identity and you're very clearly, you have that identity, then by all means. I mean, we've become a very accepting society to this point of gender neutrality. And gender identity. And I really don't understand why this is a problem at this point when it seems the majority of women, at least, seem to be okay with it.
But here's the problem. If someone, gender identity, there's people that legitimately do it, but the concern is, what if there's someone, you can't by law tell someone's intentions. You can't understand if they're legitimately wanting to be that sex. If they're gender fluid and they're that sex, they're legitimately that sex for that day. You can't tell by law. You can't tell intent from a law. So if I want to be a woman and I go in there into the women's restroom and let's say someone has a problem with it, I tell them I'm gender fluid and I identify as a woman when I'm not gender fluid and I just wanted to go in there. How's the law going to stop me?
I think we're kind of missing the bigger point here, which is that people feel like their rights are being violated, not necessarily because anyone with, bad intentions is coming in, but simply because they feel like it should be a space for people of the genetic makeup of a male or a female. I think the whole point of anyone coming in with malicious intent is kind of exaggerated. I think we're really beating a dead horse with that one. Let's move on to Mike Pence.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move on to Mike Pence. Okay, so lately old Mike Shock the Gays Pence is in the news again.
Now he's known as Mike Can't Be Alone with Women Pence.
Instead of Shock the Gays.
Basically in a recent interview, Mike Pence said his wife and himself have this deal, which is basically she can't be left alone in the same room with another man, and he can't be left alone in the same room with another woman. And then the very next day, he goes to a conference about women, and they are just up in arms. Twitter's having a great time with this.
Oh, such a great time. Actually, Mike Pence, he speaks for this conference. The man is actually receiving a Working for Women award because of this. And this kind of goes into the Planned Parenthood, which is our next piece of news. But basically, with the Planned Parenthood decision, it boiled down to for him to do the only job that the vice president actually has, which is to break a tie. And he did, obviously, as a conservative who wishes to shock the gays, he voted to basically defund Planned Parenthood. Anyway, so Twitter thinks, all forms of social media actually think this is very funny, that the man can't be left alone with women, but he can receive awards for working for them, and he can make decisions based on millions of their healthcare. So that's cool.
Like, as much as I hate drama between like political families or anything. I'm just kind of like, man, leave them alone. You know, like average people go through this shit.
Yeah,
You do just kind of gotta laugh at this one. I mean, like relationships without trust are just they're so funny. Like
hilarious.
I don't know. And the the big thing for me is like I don't even know like if men could be considered the ultimate threat for another woman, you know, or just like being left alone. Like I've literally been at a party where both my girlfriend and nasty woman were sitting on my lap making out.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
like I don't think being alone is the problem for one, and I can't speak for Mrs. Pence, but men for another, I don't know if they're the problem, you know. But it's about trust. It's about trust.
To be fair, I was under the influence. Also, I don't know. I think that his wife and his deal is kind of sweet. It's a little endearing that both of them are like, let's not do that. and they're like, okay. But I just think it's really funny that like the internet is attacking them so much. My favorite one that I've actually is a lot of people have been accusing him of being gay recently. And my favorite tweet I saw was Mike Pence doesn't hate women. He just really loves men. So it's been fun. Twitter's been fun the last week.
I don't know. I personally find it funny, but I do have kind of like a little thought experiment with this. Do you think these jokes and all of the tweets, do you think this influences and bolsters the argument that the media is liberally biased for conservatives? Because I honestly think it does, even though it is a joke.
No.
It depends on the media outlet. I mean, every outlet has bias. Like, Breitbart is so far right that they're almost looking up their own ass on the other end.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, like,
same thing with Salon, but on the other end for people that aren't too familiar with Breitbart.
And then you have networks like CNN, MSNBC. They're so far left almost in their presentation of the news. But when it comes to mainstream media, you know, and even social media, so like your TV outlet of like CNN, they're the most watched and most trusted news network on cable television. And then Twitter, I think most of your younger generation is on there. It definitely does tend to lean left. Millennials more than any other demographic lean liberal. And I mean, viewership for CNN is obviously more liberal, but I mean, I think the same thing would happen with like Obama. You know, if Barack and Michelle had this deal, people would be having fun with it. Except I think they'd be
less. I think there would be less, to be honest, but there would still be some.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it would go along with that sentiment of what Nasty Woman was saying about how it's endearing. You know, not wow. Yeah. Oh, what a respectable man.
Yeah. Here's the problem I see with it, kind of, at least, because I don't like Trump, but I feel like Trump and Pence. Let me broaden that up a little bit. The problem I have is when we're constantly complaining and not hitting him on big issues. Like if he goes if I don't know, I don't have a clear analogy besides what I just pulled up here, but I feel like if you hit him on the big issues, something that's important, because you're not, if you do that, if you hit him on every single little thing or something like this, it's gonna make people, especially conservatives, think you just hate him unbiasedly. Like he could write in a liberal law and you wouldn't care. But
it delegitimizes your claim of hatred.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Because I have this one person. Hold on, real quick, and then I'll let you respond. Edmund Evans, a content creator at nightflirt.com, brought up. I think it was a thought experiment, or she brought up an opinion where she was like, comparing him to because she basically said Mike Pence saying that he can't be alone with women. What if you compare that to Mike Pence saying I can't be alone with kids ever except my own? Basically,
I saw that.
Comparing him to kind of a
I retweeted
creep,
that.
rapist. Maybe I'm not too sure what she was getting at, but I feel like going that way. I feel like it's almost delegitimizing what Caesar said. Your claim of hatred or just what you think about him.
Yeah, and I mean, what was the point of that? Oh, I can't be left alone with kids other than my own. Like, what the hell's the point of that? That just makes him sound like a pedophile when in all reality, the deal was one that went both ways in the relationship. And I mean, you could make it as trivial as something like, yeah, I can't be left alone with a Snickers bar, which is what, honestly, if Obama had this deal, I think that's what we'd be seeing from, millennial Twitter. Or you can go as extreme and as honestly blasphemous
It's
as
not black and
I can't
white.
be left alone
yeah.
with kids.
All right. If I may, because I've been trying to talk for a bit. I actually really liked that tweet. I thought it was funny. I retweeted that. Not the point.
Yeah, I saw.
Say my piece on the media thing. I think media, the biggest consumers you have of media at this point are the younger generation, like Caesar was getting at. It is, in fact, millennials, and millennials are largely liberal. So yes, your mainstream media is going to be more liberal, but that doesn't mean that other media isn't being consumed by other people. At this point, we have so much out there that basically you can find any form of media that tailors to your own political taste. And then,
I mean, that's certainly true, but as you get down, as you get down, like the more extremes or just the weird political viewpoints, you're gonna find less and less of it.
yeah,
The weird ones.
and then moving on to what you're
hold
saying.
on. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. Sorry for interrupting you. Continue.
Yeah, you are sorry.
Shut your mouth. Continue.
Okay. Moving on to what you were saying about like how we attack politicians for little things. This was actually something I was thinking about recently, how it's really funny to me that we make fun of Donald Trump for stuff like he has small hands, he has orange skin, he has yellow hair. Like we call him President Cheeto Puff for crying out loud.
Or Kmart Caesar.
Yeah. When in all reality, we're not actually, hitting the big issues. Not a lot of people talk about the fact that he doesn't allow any of his staff to say the words climate change, or that he hasn't.
No, yeah, I agree with that. That's a bad thing.
And so you have all these other problems lining up, but we're focused on how small his hands are. And
it's the daily Trump story that people focus on instead of hitting those big issues more and more.
Yeah, or the fact that we're focused on the fact that Mike Pence and his wife have a deal about hanging out with members of the opposite sex, rather than the fact that he's receiving a Working for Women award, all while he voted to take away healthcare from millions of women. So, to me, I feel like we focus on these small things because I feel like a general population, not necessarily that they don't comprehend what's going on, but it's easier for them to, attack these small things that are a lot more humorous, because the big things just seem like too much. Like it's so scary and so ridiculous that this is happening. But hey, look at his hands, So
it's easy for anyone to just talk about, honestly, to be frank, trivial bullshit. But it actually takes effort to be politically versed.
Our next topic is Mike Flynn. So
what?
Basically,
did we tie a Planned Parenthood into that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Planned Parenthood. The decision was made. I guess we can backtrack a little. Basically, with Planned Parenthood,
we'll let the woman debrief this one.
We saw a lot of demonstrations, a lot of protests, a lot of marches. A lot of people, they were doing pink out. Donations are being made to Planned Parenthood, and ultimately it ended in a tie. The House was split, and it came down to Mike Pence to vote. Like I said before, obviously he voted to put the funding of Planned Parenthood in the hands of states. So in more conservative states, you're probably going to see a lot more defunding of Planned Parenthood, and we're going to need more donations within those. So a lot of women are going to be out of basic health care. They're not going to have access to that birth control, to those STD screenings, to basic reproductive health care that, it should be easier for them to access. At this point, it's going to be harder in more conservative states. In states like California, it's probably not going to be as big of a deal. obviously, but in a place like, I don't know, Kansas, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Actually, Kansas just passed some actual like more liberal healthcare reform. I'll have to find the actual article about it, but if you guys want to keep on talking about Planned Parenthood,
I'll also definitely throw it up on the screen right now what he's talking about too. Here's the thing. I personally don't agree with this. I do have a mix of conservative, liberal, and moderate views. Here's the thing that I think would work if it would at least get conservatives on the same page. I think if you split the if Planned Parenthood, I know this is crazy. I know this is probably dumb, but it could at least get everyone on at least the same page for women's health care, removing the abortion debate, because that's going to be a hard one to get through. That's going to be a hard debate to get through and get conservatives on. If you split the company names, the ones that provide women's health care, women's services, all that, and then split it with the abortion stuff. Split it with the abortion stuff and call that just a different company, but still semi-affiliated, I guess. Just that way, at least conservatives could get behind behind like women's health care, women's birth control. I don't know what they all offer, to be honest. I can't remember. It's like birth control, health care, all that good stuff. I feel like we could at least get a bipartisan effort behind that if we can at least separate those two things, the abortion and the Planned Parenthood name.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, the reason that why everyone's so against Planned Parenthood because abortion, which you've heard it a million times, it's just a small percentage of what it is that they actually do. But a lot of reasons that conservatives are so against abortion is because they consider it morally reprehensible. And more than that, a lot of what Planned Parenthood do, a lot of religions, namely Christianity, would disagree with, like the fact that they offer birth control when a lot of Christian religions believe in natural family planning. So again, we run into that moral issue, and also that's
actually a fair point.
The splitting of it would also be difficult because that's something that's kind of intertwined within that. That's just a care that they offer women. So while I understand what you're saying and it sounds good on paper, I think actually carrying it out would be really hard. And even then, conservatives tend to shy away from anything that actually, like giving money to healthcare, taxpayer dollars kind of thing. Not really something that they're particularly fond of. So I think even if we did split it, I don't think that there would be a very great change. All right. So our next news story is Mike Flynn. Basically, he was the national security advisor for all of about 3 weeks before a whole bunch of allegations came out about Russia, about how during the Obama administration, during Trump's campaign, he was actually communicating with Russia, perhaps even exposing like valuable information. So the man was basically forced to step down, and they've been trying to get him to testify up to this point about Russia's involvement in Trump's administration, even in his campaign, and perhaps even in the election and the outcome of that. So basically, he offered to testify, but he said, if I testify, you have to give me immunity. You cannot punish me. Now, what he's been denied, basically, they said, no, we're not going to give you immunity. And fun story, you're going to tell us anyway. But on top of
get dicked on, Flynn.
When you had Hillary going through the entire thing with the emails and Benghazi and that whole mess, she had about 6 people, and they said, we'll testify if you offer us immunity. And Mike Flynn had said at this time, if people ask for immunity, it typically means that they've actually committed a crime.
The direct quote is, when you are given immunity, that means you have probably committed a crime.
Yeah, okay.
So that's coming back to bite them in the ass. Anyways.
A little bit of hypocrisy there, I would say.
A little bit.
What in government is not fucking blatant hypocrisy?
Literally anytime you're in power, and then when you're out of power, I would say that's when most hypocrisy happens. That's when I see most hypocrisy. But broader scale, what do you guys think about this? Do you think I think this is something that that liberals and conservatives should be talking about. This is where we go back earlier when we were talking about liberals complaining about petty stuff and small things. This is something you should be talking about. This is something you should be tweeting about. Stop tweeting about Trump's hands. Let's start tweeting about actual foreign governments getting involved in our politics. This is the problem where conservatives have, where they think liberals are just complaining. Now conservatives won't even hear this out. They don't think it's not real. They won't even give it a chance because because liberals. I personally identify as a moderate. I used to identify as a liberal. I just don't like party labels, but I use them all the time because I don't know. That's just kind of how our politics work. But
liberal isn't a party.
Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. I had a conversation with your friend about this, and she flamed me on Twitter for using conservative and liberal instead of Republican and Democrat. But
well, I mean, they are political ideologies. Anyways,
right?
Okay, stop yourself. Stop breathing. But the thing is, liberals shouldn't be, or Democrats shouldn't be tweeting about Trump's hands. I mean, sure, go ahead. I'm for free speech and all that, but if you actually want to make political change and actually want other people to hear your side, you shouldn't be tweeting about petty things like that. This is something that matters.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, they were tweeting a lot about this. Actually, from this stemmed one of my favorite hashtags on Twitter ever, #TrumpImpeachment. Which basically it was a lot of people that were like, woo, Trump's going to be impeached. And then about 3 hours later, you see people being like, when you realize that when Trump is impeached, Mike Pence is going to be president. And then it's just a
nationwide shock therapy. Hell yeah. God. Let's do it.
I'm excited.
You should be. You're going to be the first one lit up.
All women, all gays, all bis. Just straight to the chair.
I am too of it. But anyway, so Twitter was just like, woo, Trump's gonna be impeached, but that means we get Mike Pence. So is anyone really winning here? No.
America.
Actually, if we get Mike Pence dethroned, we can get Paul Ryan, who I actually enjoy quite a bit, even though he botched the American, what is it called? It's the American Healthcare Act, right? Was that what
yeah, the American Healthcare Act.
Yeah, I've liked most of his policies up until he botched that. I mean, can we get healthcare across state lines, please and thanks?
I think Paul Ryan, after I was really, really proud of the guy throughout the entire Trump campaign. He was like, nope.
Yeah, I loved it.
And then after Trump became president, after he was inaugurated, I couldn't help but think, like, Paul Ryan's kind of a sellout. Like,
he's trying to get he's trying to work with Trump to get his policies passed.
Honestly, I think right now they're using Trump as a pawn piece in their little games. I think Paul Ryan's trying to, get close to him so that he can just manipulate him. But
man, if we could get both those two repealed and then Paul Ryan actually run for president and win a second term. No. I want Paul Ryan to serve like a month and a year and 364 days, and then he gets 2 terms. That would be awesome. I love me some Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If we can not talk like your average fucking reactionary. Let's repeal all of them because at the end of the day, it's not going to happen. Trump's going to be our president.
No, yeah, I definitely know not all of them are going to be repealed, Caesar. It was more of a joke. I know all of them aren't going to be repealed.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love for that to happen and get Paul Ryan in there, but it's not going to happen.
But ultimately, in the end of the situation, Trump's probably not going to be impeached. Mike
probably
Flynn
not.
is probably going. It's probably just going to get by. Like, we'll see what happens with that, but it'll probably all turn out okay. The next one is Venezuela. So to give a brief background on Venezuela, they've been in an extreme economic crisis. They have the world's highest inflation rate. In fact, it's predicted next year it'll reach about 1,100% inflation. So they're struggling with like long queues, power cuts, shortages of just basic goods. And their biggest export and their biggest source of income for the country is oil. And right now, oil prices are falling. So their president, Maduro, he's been under a lot of fire lately within that because, well, I mean, the country is literally falling apart. So this week, the Supreme Court basically just said, we're sick of this. Hey, Congress, we do your jobs now. You're meaningless and you don't matter anymore. So now the people that are interpreting the law are also making the law. And Maduro was basically just all for it. So there were a lot of opposition says that it was a coup. There were a lot of anti-government protests. They're still actually happening, or anti-government protests. But shortly after the Supreme Court took over Congress, they said, never mind, you can have your jobs back. So right now, Venezuela, they're still in that state of crisis. People are still pushing Maduro to resign, and they're still staging those anti-government protests. But at the same time, you know, it's looking up because at least Congress has their jobs back. So could be worse in Venezuela. Our second world news little bit is with North Korea and Malaysia. And this one's just kind of funny. So Kim Jong-un's half-brother was murdered in Malaysia last month.
Laughable, completely laughable.
I'm getting there. Anyway,
funny start.
Anyway, so Malaysia was like, it's very obvious that North Korea is behind the death of its supreme leader's half-brother. So we're going to keep his body here and investigate the murder. And North Korea was like, what the fuck? Give me back my brother. And Malaysia was like, no, but we don't trust you. So North Korea said, LOLK. And they basically said, none of the Malaysians in North Korea right now are allowed to go home. Like, that's the end. You're stuck here until further notice. So Malaysia, not wanting to be outdone, basically said, haha, joke's on you, North Korea. None of your people can leave our country either. So not only do we have your people trapped here, we also have your brother's court. So basically, they just got into this giant pissing match over the corpse of Kim Jong-un's half-brother. But on Thursday, Malaysia finished the autopsy and concluded the investigation. They sent Kim Jong-un's half-brother back to North Korea, and the Malaysians were allowed to return home. North Koreans were allowed to return home, and so ended the worst layovers ever.
Jesus Christ. It's like Young the Restless, but with North Korea and Malaysia.
Yeah. Very petty, but...
It's like high school Twitter drama.
Yeah.
God. Well, I think that actually wraps it up for everything that we have, unless you guys have any last closing thoughts on those two stories.
I mean, gotta love Asian, just Asian. Gotta love Asian.
God, there's so many funny moments. I mean, the death of Kim Jong-un's half-brother, the Mao Zedong starving 87 million people in China during his reign. Just a lot of funny history in there, to be honest.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, glad we could laugh about this, nasty woman.
Oh, my personal favorite was when we Vietnam and massacred a bunch of people.
My Lai massacre. Oh man, that was hilarious.
Oh, no.
That was a good chuckle. You just got some popcorn.
Another one of my favorite when we dropped nuclear weapons on Japan. Oh god.
Oh, that was a knee slapper. That was a knee slapper.
That was so funny. Yeah.
I physically slapped my knee.
In all fairness, though, we did warn the people that we bombed their towns.
Oh yeah,
we
gave them more than Donald will give them. Granted.
Do you think Donald would just nuke them? Not even before there was a declaration of war. Just if we were having problems with the country, he would just drop the bomb real quick.
Yeah, he just
kind of cracks his knuckles, opens the briefcase with the nuke codes.
Let's do this.
Time to Trump that bitch.
Someone in Tokyo gave The Apprentice a 1-star review, and he's like, "All right, that's it. It's
go time.
Oh, I love it. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode of News Recap. We might split it up into 2 parts because it did go a little longer than we expected. We're not too sure right now. Please make sure to check out our social media, our Twitter at Cryptic Heathens, our Facebook page. We might be opening up an Instagram as well very soon. Make sure to subscribe as well if you haven't already. Make sure to leave a like, all that good stuff. We all tweet from the Cryptic Heathens account, and we post on the Facebook account with our all our tweets respectively from whoever's tweeting them are signed. So if you do want to check us out privately, that's kind of where we are. Guys, thank you for watching so much. I appreciate all the support. If there is any support on this,
make sure you guys stop down in the comments below. Tell us if you thought this was too long, too short, just about right.
Any feedback would help.
And leave your opinions on.
Leave your opinions. There will be timestamps for every story.
We want to know. We care about what you have to say. Like, subscribe, and we love you. Have a wonderful week.
And favorite. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you think I'm a cuck? Let me know in the comments. You think
you are?
If you think I should be sent back to my country as I am brown, let me know in the comments.
If you think nasty woman over here is like probably has hairy legs and armpits because you can just feel the feminism reeking from her voice. If you think she
has rainbow hair, straight purple hair, let us know.
If you think she has gauges in her nose and eyebrows that say, "Don't talk to me, I'm a feminist," let us know in the comments.
I don't.
Thank you for watching.